Okay, we're now going to open up the floor to questions. Does anybody want to jump up? All right, just over here. Here, I'll give you my microphone. What's your name?
Hi, my name is Tiara, and I've come down from Brisbane to check Mardi Gras out. And yay, we're Brisbanettes. We talk about the queer community today and with Mardi Gras and so on, but there's many people who don't feel like they count as queer because of their gender or their sex life or their love life. But they don't feel like they're part of this community, either because they don't feel like they need to make that something political or they need to be activistic about it necessarily. Or they feel like they don't feel like they knew the right words, they dressed the right way. I remember I came from Malaysia some years ago, I was intimidated. So how do we reach out to these people when they face the same issues of not being welcome in their other place because of sexuality and so on, but they don't feel welcome in the queer spaces either?
Who feels like they'd like to field that one? Gail, you've got your own microphone.
Well, I would suggest look around for something that you feel really strongly about, that you feel really passionate about, that you really enjoy, and be brave enough to get into that group and start doing something in that group. Make yourself part of it. Moving into a new group is always a little bit hard, but I think if you just persevere and it's something that you feel passionate about, you'll find that the group will welcome you and accept you, and then you will feel as if you are welcome. It's just a matter of finding the right little space for you.
Passion will always guide.
And in this room, there are probably zillions of people who could give you openings for different things that you might like to get involved in.
And Lillian, you wanted to add something.
I think that that's a very good point, but I also think that it is the responsibility of any group to actively think outside of, especially if they're a group that is about representing people who feel left out. You know, it's almost like an extra imperative to think about how you can go beyond what you're already thinking, because everybody's situation and experience is so limited, and just try to, as a strategy, just try to think about how you can kind of collect people that might have a shared experience as you. And I just want to make a mention about, for instance, like FEM. Any group that you have is going to be really culturally relevant, really culturally constructed, and might only resonate in a strong way within your culture. But you might have other elements of that which are more universal. So, say, for instance, like FEM organising, we look at things about queer identity, and we look at things about misogyny. So it's almost like anybody who has any experience of queer identity plus misogyny can, find some kind of common ground with that. And it's about stepping outside what are your stereotypes as a group and really taking on responsibility about kind of like trying to be proactive about trying to include people who might not feel like they might be welcome.
So getting your arm around them a little bit? Is that too warm and fuzzy?
It's about not just like specifically stating that you are welcome to all of these people. I think it's sometimes about actively instating people in your visual merchandising. Mardi Gras, please pay attention. Like people in your in your ads for your parties, in your ads for who you represent.
Is this helping you with your question?
that you represent the diversities.
Yeah, it's true. Very much so.
And having it as a strategy that, is... that shows people that you are actually diverse. Otherwise, they're just going to look at that video that was up on Same List today. Do you see that? About all the hot boys at Fair Day. And just think that everybody that's part of your group is like white and like muscly and tanned and like got their shirt off.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Here.
Just saying.
Okay. We're going to move on to the next question. Now, one thing with these questions, we need to try and keep them pretty brief, right? Because we've got limited time. So we've got to keep them brief, and we'll try and move through and get as many people on the mic as we can. Just over here, beautiful. Have we got a microphone? 1, 2, guys. Other wireless?
It's not. It is now.
There
I've got
it is.
Amy. Amy's got a question.
Hey, Amy.
Hi.
And do you have somebody you want to direct the question to specifically?
No, this is a general question.
General question.
I'm interested to know from anyone who wants to talk about this about what impact you think racism has within our queer community, and how we can go about making our queer spaces more inclusive to people of colour.
Oh, shall I direct that one? Just seems so who wants to answer that one? Mish, get into it.
Is this working? Yeah.
Is it working?
Maybe. Is it working?
Mic up.
Now? Cool. Yeah. I think one of the first steps is for white queer activists to recognise the work that's been done by people of colour in the past and that's been happening for so many years and is continuing to happen, and to not pretend that queer activism is just this white phenomenon. Like, there's so many groups that are already doing so much amazing work, like, across the world, that we really need to connect with these groups and show that we respect them and show that we have so much to learn from these groups, and not the other way around. Quite often we think our own way is the best way to do things, and that's just not true. There's so much work that's been done that we think we're doing it the first time and we're not. So that's one way.
Okay, we've got another question. Are people paying attention, Mish, do you think? People, I mean, in general, are people paying attention to what's going on and seeing outside their own little box of what they're having for dinner and what's going on in their group and what's going on, for all that kind of stuff? Do you think?
Oh, shit. I think not, because I think, I'm pretty ignorant of what's going on in the world, and I think a lot of people are, and I think, I look around the groups that I'm part of, and they are really, really white, and we have to ask ourselves why that is, and, why we're not reaching out to more culturally diverse communities and the communities that we're not including in our groups. And, for instance, even in the language we use, I know I get caught up in using the right kind of terminology, and that's really alienating from people who come from different cultures and use different terms, and, ways of speaking and ways of relating to each other and ways of running a meeting are totally culturally specific, and you have to challenge that if you want to increase your representation.
And Miss Curry Love, what do you have to say about that? Microphone up.
Hi. I believe we need to focus on what we have in common, and we're all discriminated against in some way, and the laws of our country or other people, and so we're all just suffering, but just we need to remember that we're all just humans, and going through this human experience, and just to be open and share the love.
There she goes. Is that what it says on your card? Wait, can I have a look at your card after this?
After this.
After this. Okay, we've got another question back here.
I've got Misha down here.
Excuse me, what was your name again?
Michelle.
Michelle.
Hi, this question is for Gillian in particular, and then to the panel at large. I work in theatre and the arts and have on 3 different continents at this point. My question in particular is, I've been doing a lot of research into diversity, not just in audiences, but on the stage, and in particular into colorblind casting, etc. So my question is really 2 parts. Why do you think Australian theatres lack this diversity on the stage, and how do we accomplish it?
It's a really good question. I think the theatre is probably as much a reflection of any other industry in Australia, and not only is it colourblind, it is completely gender blind. The Sydney Theatre Company, I think, has maybe 1 play written by a woman, is it? 1, perhaps? And directors, even fewer. Do I have the answer? No. I think it comes from more diverse people writing more. I think it starts with the material often. I think it's about more diversity in directors, because directors make casting decisions. But I totally agree. I think I don't know that Australia's all that different from, certainly, I mean, there's a bigger population in the US, so clearly there's a greater diversity. But I think that certainly festivals like Sydney Fringe Festival, that was huge last year, Mardi Gras, a whole lot of smaller festivals are the places where a lot of those new works, are developed, and those new casts are found, and those new directors are found, and it's about those influencing the mainstream. But I think we've got a long way to go, not just in terms of people from different nationalities and different backgrounds, but certainly women.
Thank you. Did I answer your question? Okay, give you a bit of info. Okay, we've got time for one more question.
Okay, I've got Sally over here.
Sally.
Hi, it's a question for the whole panel, actually. I read the SSO, I try to read it every week, and I get really disappointed when I see what's in it because it's all about, well, most of the people who are talking in those stories are blokes, and most of the stories are focused on gay men. And I just would like to hear a bit about what you think about why that is and how women might be able to actually have more of a presence in terms of what's being reflected back in our main newspaper. It appears to be anyway to me.
Gail, you want to start?
I think it's largely because we don't write and submit things to them. I've always found the SSO absolutely willing to publish anything that I ever have the time to submit to them, whether it's a little bit of information about an event or something that's happened. They'd love me to write. I don't have the time or the energy to do more than what I do, but anybody who wants to submit something to them, I think you'd have a very good chance of getting it in, and it could be a project. That could be something that you care passionately about. Let's change it. Let's do it.
It is a community paper, after all.
Yeah. I think you'll find them willing if you send them something in and it's interesting and it's about the community in general and photographs. Send in your photographs. But if it comes from our part of the community, I think they will accept it.
Excuse me?
What was that?
I work for the Star Observer.
There you go, Emery Callahan.
Yeah. But if they don't get the material, they can't publish it. Well, give it a try.
But you just got to take a little bit. You can say for a long time, you can go, oh, why isn't this happening? Why isn't this happening? Or you can just decide to do something about it. Physical spaces more inclusive. Why are those black spaces when they're not there? Is because we're not making them more inclusive. Oh, and now it's our fault that the Star. That's not about it. It's not. I don't think what Gail is saying is a pointing fault. She's yeah. Yeah. I think there is, but I don't think it's about a pointing necessarily fault, but looking at it from perhaps a different direction. That's what Gail's saying. Yeah. Well. Well, there we go. What we're going to do now is we are going to thank our wonderful panelists. Thank you very much. All right. So I don't know if my watch is correct, but I'm going to say that it is. And my watch says 10 past. So y'all get about 10 or 12 minutes. If you smoke, I hear it takes 4 minutes to have one of those. So get your butt down there and get back up here. We'll see you for the second half of Women Say Something.